Hello everyone, just a quick update on the Reformation project. At the moment we're still in post-production and it's not likely to be shown now until late next spring, but I'll keep you up to date when we have any dates. As it's Christmas and to wish you all a happy Christmas, I thought I'd revisit an earlier film, the actual production footage. This is Bloopers, so you can see what it's like when you're filming. Even in a place like Venice, it can be very noisy, and when you're trying to do some stand-ups, it can be difficult. Enjoy. Happy Christmas. Venice has always been at the meeting point between the Orient and the West, known as the Serenissima because of her beauty as the city on the sea. She developed trade routes throughout the Mediterranean and further afield, and was a major port for European pilgrims to the Holy Land. Go, Ken. And they're watching us, I'm sure of it. Can you hear it? It's there. I'll try some anyway, okay? Earlier that century. In the 16th century, Venice was at the peak of a cultural golden age. The great Venice is not just a pretty face. She was a formidable sea power, and with oh Lord.
Start, please. Go.
The Venetians' love of art and artists is reflected in her architecture. But Venice is not just a pretty face. With this guy crazy. Venice has always been at the meeting point between the Orient and the West, known as the Serenissima because of her beauty as the city on the sea. She developed trade routes throughout the Mediterranean and further afield, and was a major port for pilgrims to the Holy Land. She became a major naval power and had long served Christendom, being a staging point for the Crusades, as well as for the Battle of Lepanto.
They were very proud of the fact that the one thing that really bound them to the West was their obedience to the Catholic Church. They were Catholics, they were obedient to the Pope in Rome. They took great pride in this. They were the most active crusaders in the Middle Ages and the early modern period. One of the reasons that they ended up being kind of the bulwark of Western Europe, they were the ones, whenever the Ottoman Turks were attacking, that people assumed that the Venetians should be involved in the defense of Europe. So they did feel a very close relationship with Rome. And I think those Venetians who are still around, many of them still do.
In the 16th century, Venice was at the peak of a cultural golden age. Earlier that century, the great German artist Albrecht Dürer said of Venice, "Here I am a gentleman, at home I am a parasite." While priceless religious artistic works in Reformation England were being destroyed by their thousands, in Venice artists like Titian, Veronese and Tintoretto were producing some of the greatest works of religious art ever created. The Venetians' love of art and artists is reflected in her architecture, but Venice is not just a pretty face. She was also a formidable sea power, and with trade and empire came many diverse cultures and faiths. Art and literature thrived in Venice. That was on one hand very cosmopolitan, and at the same time very Catholic. When supposed witches were being subject to the most horrendous persecutions in northern Protestant Europe, and terrible ordeals of innocence being imposed, with many witches being burnt alive, the Venetians sought to eliminate witchcraft, and not to kill witches but to convert them. In Venice, after an inquisitional trial, the severest punishment meted out to a Venetian witch was a whipping. Nevertheless, is there such a phenomenon as witchcraft? Venice and Italy as a whole escaped the witch crazes that engulfed so much of early modern Europe, and indeed parts of the New World. The Salem witch trials in America are an example of this persecution of many innocent victims. In Venice and Italy in general, the inquisitional trials were a calming factor. The Roman Inquisition sought not to eliminate the individual, but rather foster his conversion.